So I did another poll the other day. Surprise, surprise. And I asked what you guys wanted to learn more about, what you guys felt like you didn't know enough about. And the main thing that was mentioned, the thing that won the poll was breeding. And there's a lot of questions around breeding. How do you breed? How can you guess what traits you're going to get out of a breeding situation? And a big main question is, how do you know you finally made your own strain? When can you call it your own strain? I feel like that's the most common question when it comes to breeding on its own. So we're going to get into that. We're going to go over Zaza Genetics video and then probably look up a couple articles if we can find a little bit more information. But this 3 laws of breeding and why they're important, and going over the Punnett Square, I feel like is a very important start. I watched this entire video already, so I kind of get the gist of what's going on. And I feel like it's really going to help you guys. I recommend you go watch his stuff. He knows what he's talking about. He does a lot of this breeding content that I simply can't do because I don't have the experience that he's bringing to the table. So go check out Zaza Genetics channel. It's absolutely blowing up. Last week even, it was at like 3.6 thousand subscribers, and now it's already at 4.25. So this guy's fucking rocking it. So, without further ado, let's just talk about the principle of Mendelian inheritance, which, if I'm saying any of this wrong, I'm sorry. Law of segregation, the 2 allies for each alleles. Mendel's.
Only contribute 1 because
I just realized that the desktop audio wasn't on. My bad.
1 allele in the whip, right? And
But basically, what he talked about up to this point is you need to talk about the alleles and the gametes and how they interact, how they're going to transfer to the next, to the offspring of the breeding, and being able to determine what traits you're going to be able to get. What combinations of phenotypes are you going to be able to get out of that breed? And that's pretty much as far as we are right now.
To the offspring. So you're actually more familiar with gametes than you even thought, because gametes are simply, you could think of they're reproductive cells, right? So like a female's gamete would be an egg, and a male gamete would be a sperm cell. When we talk about humans, the gametes split in order to deliver that 1 allele. So during meiosis, we talked about meiosis before, right? But during meiosis, we talked about the reshuffling of the deck. We spoke about that in some of the previous videos. This reshuffling of the deck that happens, and it creates a new combination of alleles randomly distributed.
So this chart basically is showing how the cells split like apart, I believe. Process where cell divides twice, forming 4 cells that each contain half the genetic information. So basically, it's a representation of both parents combined into a single organism, and that's basically what's creating these phenotypes, these specific genotypes as well.
Into the gametes. So genes for different traits are inherited independently, meaning that the inheritance of one trait, let's say seed color, for example, won't affect the inheritance of another trait like seed shape. All right, gang, before we get into the last law, let's make sure we comment, like, subscribe, and show your support for your boy. You know, I'm out here grinding, man. I'm also in school, college full-time. We also work a full-time job. We're also a parent, a good dad.
That can be
so much love. Shout out to
a
all the
lot
good
on your
dads
fucking
out
plate,
there.
man.
You know what time
Kudos.
it is, but make sure
From one content
check
creator
out
to another.
AC Infinity and use that code Team Zaza at checkout, and make sure you grab some gear.
What's up, AB? Good to see you, man.
If you want to grab some dead ops on sale, you want to have a good, strong.
Right now, we're just learning about cannabis breeding. I want to go over this Zaza genetics video and then probably move on to maybe an article. I got to keep this stream short because I do have plans with the family today, but I did want to get in here, go over these 3 principles that he talks about, the 3 laws of the breeding, and then see if we can get a definitive answer of when you can call something your own strain, which I have an idea in my head of what exactly makes a strain, but we can see if we can find anything to argue that, and I'll establish it before we go into it.
Strong foundation and utilize the sale while it's hot. Much love to all my supporters, man, and let's get right back into this third one. But comment, like, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, man. I need the subscription. The channel is growing, and I want to provide more content for y'all. So let's keep the algorithm lit. So for this example, we got the good old Punnett square, baby. Yeah, the good old Punnett square. So, and what we have here is mom up top. Look like she's providing heterozygous tall situation. And we'll say that's dad on the side there, providing a heterozygous tall situation as well. So, big T representing dominant tall, and little t representing runt or a dwarf. And both of them are heterozygous for
okay, so this Punnett square is extremely important, and you can kind of make one of these at home when you're comparing 2 different actual traits. Good morning, Rayathome? Is that how you say that? I hope so. Good morning, man. It's good to see you in the chat. Basically what this chart is showing is the different combinations of traits you're going to get out of certain sets. So let's say you're going for a Ray at home. All right. Awesome. Thank you, man. I apologize. I have smoked a little bit, so I don't feel exactly like a human right now, but this is showing how the traits are going to be passed down to the seed. Now, each one of these Punnett squares represents how a different seed is likely to get a trait. So if you have a dominant trait and a recessive trait, there are different odds that you're going to get different traits. Now, one thing that's super important to take into consideration, especially when you're going into an F1 situation, so you take a mother of one strain and the father of another, and you cross those 2, this Punnett square is actually an entire ginormous, like, wall of, like, a giant mass of cubes going into that F1 generation. And what I mean by that is when you actually breed a strain, depending on how large your plant is, you can get hundreds of seeds off a plant, which means you're going to have hundreds of these different Punnett squares with hundreds of different genetics, which leads to hundreds of thousands of different possibilities. And why that's important is when you're going into an F1 generation situation, you're going to have the highest pool of genetics there is. And then when you breed those strains together, which I think it's worth mentioning that the F1 generation, I believe, is officially your strain. Once you combine two different genetics together and you do it in a controlled environment, you can officially say that is your strain. So if you pollinate these indoor, I think that would be optimal to be able to have the confidence that nothing got cross-contaminated. That is an official F1 mass of strains. Now, going into that, you can finally do a giant pheno hunt where you pheno hunt hundreds of seeds at a time, and then you take two specific ones that are, or a group of specific ones that are showing traits that you personally want to pass down to another generation, and then you narrow down the pool from there. And then you can take like a mother of a previous generation and do a back cross, which we'll get into later, because that gets into a completely different set of things that are going to help you move along. But the Punnett square here is extremely limited, and you will only be dealing with one specific genetic at a time and trying to get that into your next generation.
Big T, little t, which means both parents are showing two different alleles, one dominant, one recessive, one tall, one short, right? And if you look inside our boxes here, first box, big T, that's a homozygous tall, guaranteed. You coming out with a tall offspring. Under that, you got a heterozygous situation, big T, little t. Also, this is what we're talking about. Our law of dominance kicks in. That big T is always going to mask the little t. Same situation, top right, and then bottom right, we're looking at recessive homozygous runt. So we're looking at a 3-to-1 ratio ultimately if we were to use our Punnett square to predict. And that's a perfect example of using a Punnett square to predict.
Right at home, thank you for joining the Discord. I saw your notification pop up.
And what the offspring may
feel free to share your plants and garden status and stuff like that.
And there you have it, man. That is
what's up, Nate
Mendel's
C?
three
Good to
laws,
see
and
you.
they are super
Triple thumbs up,
important in terms
right
of
back
what
at
we
you.
do, because it's the foundation of our practices. And then once we build a strong foundation, we can step outside of those practices and start to focus on some non-Mendelian mechanics and tools to add to our toolbox. So much love, gang.
Thank you for joining, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Make sure you join the Discord. I'm always in there. 9 p.m.
I'll let him talk about his Discord a little bit. Why not?
Instagram Live, 10 p.m. Eastern. I had to look at the clock real quick. It's 8. So we'll see how quick we get this video up, man. Much love, y'all. Appreciate y'all. And I'm out of here, man. Kick, bow.
I just gave mostly a wave. Also joined the Discord. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. Growing the community in general. Respect right back at you. I really love doing these live streams, man. This morning, it's super early, and I'm a little bit pressed for time, so I was feeling a little stressed, so I got on later than I wanted to, but I really wanted to get this out to you guys. When is a strain your own when cannabis breeding. Let's see if we can find anything on that. So, through backcrossing, hybridization, and other methods, growers can create their own personalized strains with the desired effects they want. And also, growth, structure, smell, all of those traits go into it. Backcrossing is a breeding technique that initiates initials mating a hybrid with one of its parents to generate progeny, displaying similar characteristics as the parent. Well, it's good to see you, Nate C. Joining the Discord over there. Greatly appreciate it. Again, I love having a conversation on there when I can't always chat on YouTube. Diesel Cheese. If one has, e.g., 20 seeds of a stable hybrid from a good breeder and you want to create your own strain based on it, would you cross it by itself, a backcrossing, or fembreeding, or other strains? So I believe, I'm going to take Chill Out OG for example, just to make this easier. And I talked to Chris about this. He gave me permission to do what I want with his seeds. If I bred Chill Out OG and made a set of seeds, and I took a clone from the mother, let's say, and I grew that clone out to breed with a male genetic from the next generation, all I did was make a backcrossed F4. I have his F3s right now, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that would put us at F4 if I did a backcross, or just a backcrossed F3, Chill Out OG by Mr. Grow It. Because all I did was chuck pollen into another generation. Is that my own experiment? Yes. Will only I have the genetics if I don't share them? Yes. No one else would have those genetics. But in my opinion, it is still Chill Out OG, and it is not my own genetic. It is just a refined version of a genetic that I obtained from someone else. I hope that's clear, and I didn't say something that was just gobbledygook. I hope that made sense. But for what I'm doing right now, going into my breeding project, I'm going to take a peanut butter breath from Thug Pug Genetics, peanut butter breath F3 from them. I'm going to cross it with a regular wedding cake from Canuck Seeds, and I'm going to create a F1 K9 cake, and that will be my own genetic, in my opinion. Going further into it, you can do the F2 breeding a K9 cake with another K9 cake from the F1 generation, going into an F2, and then back crossing the F2 with one of the F1s, and then you just make a more refined genetic that is still K9 cake. That's as far as I understand it. But then it just goes so on and so on and so on as you make more genetics, as you make more F generations and make your stuff more refined to your perfect vision. Because as you breed further past the F1 generation, the window for genetics gets smaller. So if F1's up here, F2, F3, F4, 5, 6, and so on, and it goes on potentially infinitely, but that's breeding basics. Essential part of creating new and unique cannabis strains through backcrossing, hybridization, and other methods. We read that section on the main thing. I've never bred on purpose, but I'm headed in that direction. I've done it by accident countless times. Nate C., I think everyone has done it on accident countless times. I mean, from herming plants that you don't notice all the way up to growing outdoor and someone letting their male just run free. I think everyone has gotten seeds in their stuff. Are they always viable? Not necessarily. Probably a lot of the herming plants you wouldn't want to grow simply because they would have that tendency going forward, most likely. Hybridization is a go-to technique for cannabis breeders, allowing them to create something entirely novel by crossing two different varieties of marijuana plants. Through hybridization, growers can leverage their best traits from both parent strains, such as increased THC levels and improved flavor profiles, while also introducing genetic diversity, which will likely result in more robust and resilient offspring down the line. By combining these desirable attributes, one can craft the optimal strain with that breeder's qualities, with the desired qualities. Finally, selective breeding is another powerful tool available to those who create their own strains of marijuana. By selecting only most desirable specimens for reproduction over multiple generations, breeders can eventually hone in on exactly what they're looking for when it comes time for harvesting their crop, whether it be a larger bud or higher cannabinoid content than usual. Anything is possible with enough practice and dedication toward cultivating your perfect strain through selective breeding techniques. Any grower can become a master breeder capable of producing truly remarkable results year after year. And that is the basic goal, is to create a ideal strain just for yourself. And you can do this a ton of times and just make an entire repertoire of genetics that you really like, and you can share them with your friends, you can gift them, you can do giveaways, and just share the love. Get your genetics out there. Maybe you have the next AK-47 or Northern Lights or White Widow, something that just everyone's familiar with. I'm all about trying to get people answers as quickly as possible. Diesel Cheese. That's why I make so much content. I try to post videos or live streams multiple times a week, and it's simply because there's so much right now that you can get into when it comes to cannabis. Whether you're talking breeding, whether you're talking growing, whether you're talking the drama in the community, of people debating and trying to get to the bottom of what should be standard for this plant when it comes to certain things. Whether you're talking about dispensaries finally becoming a thing, you're talking scientific studies that we're finally able to do that we were never able to do before because of the legality. There is something to get into every single day when it comes to cannabis, and I wish I had more time to do so. With the right expertise and resources, you can start crafting your own distinctive cannabis varieties. Growing your own strains is a great way to ensure quality control while also having fun experimenting with different genetics. Key takeaway: growers can craft their own genetic strains through backcrossing, hybridization, and selective breeding. An experienced breeder with the right know-how can cook up some truly remarkable results by combining desirable traits from different parent plants or honing in on desired characteristics over multiple generations, and backcrossing also. Any grower has the potential to become a master breeder, and that pretty much goes for everything. With enough practice, you can do anything, whether you're on your first run or you've been breeding for a while, or you've just been growing feminized plants or auto flowers, whatever your preference is, and you've just been killing it in the growing game for a while. We always have more room to go. We always have places we can improve in our garden, and we always have that next step that we look forward to. And that's a big reason why I've gotten so driven over the years. This plant just means so much to me when it comes to my life's work in progress. It just makes me a lot more excited to branch out and become an expert in as much as I can. Growing your own cannabis strains is a rewarding experience for any grower. It allows you to customize the types of strain, yield, and quality that you want from your plants. Growers can utilize their knowledge of genetics, experimental conditions, and plant nutrition to craft strains that are specifically tailored for them. So anything you want to be able to grow, anything you have to make, say you grow in a certain environment that most plants aren't friendly with, you can take plants that are a little bit more extreme on that end, and you can create your own genetic that would thrive in that environment, potentially. As an advanced level professional with an IQ of 150, I don't know why you had to flex your IQ. That doesn't even make any sense. I'd select the parent plants by evaluating their cannabinoid content, terpene profile, and bud size. This process also allows me to pass on desirable traits through breeding or genetic manipulation techniques such as hybridization and tissue culture propagation. Additionally, I'll use idioms and colloquialism while taking into consideration proper grammar, spelling, punctuation, no explanation points in order to optimize my key word usage. All right, man. Once you have selected your parent plants, it's time to start growing them out so they can produce viable seeds or clones, depending on how you plan on propagating them, e.g., feminized seed production, in order to optimize growth conditions for maximum yield and quality. There are several key elements that need to be taken into consideration: temperature and humidity levels, light intensity and spectrum, soil composition, water pH level, nutrient availability, air circulation, ventilation, etc. is essential to comprehend the optimal conditions for each strain proper to initiating any growing venture, as every factor has specifically impacted how well the plants will flourish in certain circumstances. Good Lord. Growers should also pay close attention when harvesting their crop, because timing is crucial when you want optimal results or efforts. Also, if you're going to be selling the seeds, you want to be able to put in what the harvest range is for flower, because that's good to know. And a good reason to know is because if you let your customers grow your plant out too long and go too far past the growing window, plants will have a larger tendency to herm, and that's because they want to breed and they want to pass on the next generation. So they will induce themselves to breed with themselves if they go on too long. And I don't know if that's something that's happened to me. It's a possibility, I suppose, but that is also something that happened with Chill Out OG, so that is worth noting. But if you don't specify what your harvest window is, you would be, in some way, you would be liable to that herming plant. Ever had auto top themselves? They just split for whatever reason. I have 2 strains that do this all the time. I wonder if that trait can be bred in. So that would have to do with the Nate C. Thank you for the question, by the way. That would have to do with the genetic morphology of the plant. So you will find plants that, instead of growing like that typical Christmas tree type of shape, they'll either grow a single dominant cola all the way up and all the other ones will be even, and sometimes they will in fact grow multiple branches that will shoot vertically through the top of the plant. And again, that is just a tendency because of how the plant needs to be bred. It needs to reach as high up in the air as possible. It needs to send all of its energy to the top of the plant. It needs to stretch out so it can grab as much pollen as possible. And from like a logistics standpoint, to get to where you want to collect as much pollen as you can, odds are that you would want multiple heads for more surface area to catch more pollen. It might be a rare trait. It might be something that not a lot of plants have picked up. But yeah, sometimes plants will have branches that just absolutely shoot up in the air, or seemingly give themselves a topping or fimming effect where they grow multiple tops without the breeder or the grower having to do anything. If they grow low to the ground and spread out, I've had white widows that do that. I've had green cracks that do that. And I've had to do zero training to them to have to grow in that manner. It's simply a genetic tendency. And it sounds like they have an indica dominant growing structure to where they want to stay squat and conserve heat is normally what that tendency is for, because they're used to growing in colder environments than a sativa is, growing super tall and lanky so they can regulate their temperature through their perspiration. So that's why your plants are probably growing like that. And they will tend to have thicker stalks, so you won't have to do as much low stress training where you're doing the stem rubs. They'll just kind of harden themselves up on their own and kind of allow themselves to grow more large buds by doing that. But yeah, I've had plants that are just absolute monsters. They're just squat, bushy, and put on a ton of buds with a ton of tops without me having to do anything again. What's up, Jonathan? Good to see you. Good morning. Act now. Initiate the process and witness astonishing outcomes for your gardening labors. By taking all these factors into account, growers can increase their chances of success by when attempting to create new strains while having fun experimenting along the way. And that's the number one thing. Yeah, Nate, what strain are you growing that's doing that specifically? What's the, what cultivar should we be looking for? I also want to know, as well as Ray at home. That's the number one thing to take away from this, though, is when you're doing this, just have fun. You want to create your own genetic and experiment and see what you can combine together and what makes what. Definitely have fun with it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to create the perfect strain, because I feel like that narrows it down quite a bit. Garlic grapefruit from Tiki Madman. The other is from a friend that calls it EM citrus. That EM citrus, sorry, galactic grapefruit, not garlic grapefruit. That EM citrus sounds super interesting. I wish I could grow that, just based off the name. But I feel like trying to create the perfect strain limits you, and not only that, but also plant limits are starting to limit people in how much they can pheno hunt and what varieties they can put out. Don't pressure yourself to make the perfect genetic the first time. It's definitely going to take a lot of experimentation, possibly breeding a lot of combinations from that F1 genetic to make your perfect genetic and what you're really looking for. Because you could go like from F1 to F2 and then again to F3 and come out with something that isn't your ideal. It's very possible to let your stuff slip and just hope something's going to get better, even if you're not liking it as much as you would like to in the F1s and in the F2 going into the F3. Just remember to take it back to the F1, do another pheno hunt, find those genetics you want to breed with, and man, just have fun with it. So we'll read this conclusion, and then I think I'm going to have to log off. But one more question I do want answered, and if someone has the answer, please drop it. I don't know exactly how to pick a male strain other than to do a stem rub technique and figure out the smell of that plant, going over the pollen sac production and how those are built up, and basically the robust morphology of the plant. And I know there's no way that those are the only things that go into picking a male plant, but I don't know any of the other types of things to look for specifically. One pheno of SFNG I have been cloning to keep alive in between flowering specifically so I can breed it. That's awesome, man. It's good to hear the art is coming from the chat. So shout out to Jonathan to doing the breeding work that we are talking about today. Conclusion: by understanding the basics of cannabis breeding, you can create your own unique strains by selecting parent plants and using different techniques such as pollination, stabilization. You can be able to craft a strain that is tailored specifically for your needs with enough patience and dedication. Anyone with an interest in cannabis genetics can learn how to breed their own custom-made marijuana varieties. Cannabis Breeding 101. Creating your own unique strains has given us the tools we need to make this dream come true. Take your cannabis breeding skills to the next level with greenbudgurus.com's Cannabis Breeding 101 course and create unique strains that are sure to impress. Unlock the secrets of successful weed growing today. Vigor, structure, color are definitely things to look for. Is it just a lot more bare bones to pick a male to breed with than it is a female? I wish there was something we could Q-tip on a female and get them to herm out controllably. Are you talking about breeding a female with a female? Because there is a way we can do that, and that's actually how you make feminized seeds. So if that's what you're talking about, yeah, so it's some kind of silver. I can't remember the exact compound name, but we can look up how to feminize cannabis seeds. So the two most popular techniques are spraying your plants with colloidal silver, which is popular but uses harsh chemicals, and volatilization, which is the process of harvesting female cannabis plants, pollen, and manually pollinating another female cannabis plant. So you can do either of those. Yeah, so Jonathan, use that silver spray. You'll pollinate a female with itself. You will create feminized genetics of that genetic. So if I wanted to even just buy a genetic, I wanted to buy cheaper seeds, I wanted to save on seeds, and I wanted to buy this colloidal silver, I could make feminized genetics of that genetic at home. Yeah, no problem, man. Any question I can answer, I will. That is my mission. It's called reversing a plant. Long and toxic process. Hey man, for some people it's worth it. Some people just like feminized genetics. Like, I like feminized seeds, but right now I'm growing regulars just so I can do breeding projects and get a lot of seeds, so then I don't have to worry about buying genetics for a long time. But regular plants are definitely not for everybody. But Infinity, I'm glad to see you in the chat and interacting with the people and sharing some good information as well about breeding and also feminized plants. But I think I'm not against finding males, but our current seed market just seems to be without males all the time. Just about, I'm sure I could order some specifically. I don't know if you can buy male-inized plants, but buying regular plants, you have like a 50-50 chance of getting a male. I found males just from individual seeds. Like, I'll get a freebie seed that's a regular seed, and it turns out male most of the time. I don't know if I just have bad luck or what. But Jonathan, I would just go with ordering regular seeds if you're trying to find males to breed with. That just seems like the most straightforward way. Sounded easy till I tried it. It took a few attempts. Hey man, usually things that are worth doing are difficult. So to Nate there, the days of good bag seed, I feel like are pretty much gone. You're not gonna find anything great just out of a random bag because, again, most people who grow are buying feminized seeds and just buying feminized seeds and growing those out. And if those hermaphrodite, that's not a quality genetic that you're going to be growing it. It'll have a hermaphroditic tendency, which is a big critique actually for feminized strains. Is they have a technically higher tendency to herm than regular seeds, but I don't have that happen personally very often. Just keep your plants as little stressed as possible. Andrew, I have some regular autos from Matt from ICANN THC. Hey, ICANN THC just apparently came across my channel the other day, so that was really cool to see. I checked out a little bit of his content. I also just got pollen yesterday to breed with multiple Mephisto plants. You can find pollen drops if you watch for them. I've never bought pollen online. I think that might be something interesting to look into. Bag seed sparked my interest in growing and breeding. You might as well try it, man. I mean, you got nothing to lose, really. Growing bag seeds. There are things to look out for and be concerned about when growing bag seeds. So tread carefully when doing that. Explains why my first closet grow with a bag seed had herms. Indeed, yeah, they can be pretty prevalent. Yeah, definitely. I'm actually waiting until I have a tent. That's why I'm growing Chill Out OG in my closet and doing another closet run. I'm hoping that every single one of those are female and I can just absolutely fill that closet to the brim with colas. But I'm waiting to get 2 growing tents so I can start my breeding project and start doing pheno hunting. But I think we've went over a lot that had to do with breeding. We talked about a lot. I'm running out of time. We had great conversation in the chat. Thank you for everyone being here and having a conversation about breeding today. I hope that you guys can take information, possibly create your own strains. And if you do, I would love to check out what you guys have and come up with. Are you going to update us on the Chris's Chill Out OG? I love the profile. Yeah, so you can find updates on my Twitter account and also my Instagram, which are in the description of every single one of my videos, so you can go ahead and follow them to get updates. But I'm also going to do a little grow series with these plants where I document the seed stage, do an educational video specifically on the seed stage, do an educational video on the early veg and late veg stages, and then early flower, mid and late flower, and then going into harvesting, drying, and curing, and then finally showing off the final product. Because I did do the seed to harvest video, but I didn't like how long it took to finally put out growing content when it came to that. So I feel like doing the more mini series. And if you guys want to do a grow with me again, I've done 2 grow with me series, and if you guys want to see that, I could possibly do that for the breeding project going into making F1s, and I could do like a breeding grow with me series to get that out. So if you guys want to see that, drop it in comments, drop it in the chat, drop it wherever you can find conversation with me. I had the here, I'll drop the invite link for anyone. Anyone who missed the first Discord link drop. That should bring you right to the Discord for anyone who's interested. We have conversations there. I drop videos. If you guys want to see early releases to videos, you can join the membership program, which also helps me out. You guys get extra content, early content, and will be notified first when I do drop. So Just catching up with the chat here. There's not much more exciting than turning a seed into a unicorn that's nothing like its siblings. Yeah, definitely finding that unique genetic is fucking crazy. I feel like I kind of did that. I found a unicorn phenotype of wedding cake that I really hope I find again. But I don't know if I will be able to. I really hope, because that's what I'm... That ideal is what I'm basing this entire breeding project off, basically. But yeah, hey, Jonathan, Ray at home, if you guys are in favor of that, I definitely like creating content for the people. Once I get these tents and I start doing those teaser trailers for that, you guys will definitely be able to see that going up. But man, I do have to say goodbye. Running out of time. Thank you guys for joining again. If you want to have further conversation, hit that Discord up. I like shooting messages in there. Also dropping pictures. Being able to show off your own gardens and ask it growing advice, and getting advice on growing. Definitely. It's fun over there. Babylon Burnout. I found a Runts S1 that smelled in veg so fruity and pungent that I was worried it would flower too early. Usually you don't have to worry about something flowering too early unless you're like really want a long flower time. Like, are you talking about the stretch not being as long, or are you talking about because these plants do grow trichomes throughout their entire grow cycle. Like even thank you for joining, Infinity. Good to see you. But even like at the seedling stage, you have trichomes. So technically, you would be able to smell what that plant's sort of gonna smell like. And then later in the veg stage, they grow a lot of trichomes on that stem. And then once you get into the flowering stage, they actually do start growing those flowers that are going to be a representation of the final product. But the stem trichome profile is different than the flower, and the flower trichome, like the flavor, flavonoid profile, terpene profile, is completely different to the finished product. So be aware of that. It being an auto is completely important. Is it auto, or do you have to flip the lights? Because if you have to flip the lights, you might be looking at a shorter stretch, possibly, is all you would have to be concerned about. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to worry about it flowering while it's under veg light if it is a photo period plant. But I'll let you guys finish off your conversations. Thank you for joining me. It was a great stream, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much.